I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and it's time to get wealthy. You're going to learn exactly what you need to do to finally achieve the level of financial success you desire and you deserve. The pathway for wealth or high net worth for Black women is entrepreneurship. That's according to a new study by UBS, the United Bank of Switzerland. Black women surveyed said that 42% of Black women surveyed said that business income was a significant part of their wealth. And I'm excited to have a conversation with someone today who built a 7-figure business as a solopreneur. If she can do it, you can do it too. Elizabeth Davis is founder and CEO of Shidavi, a plant-based beauty brand, who took her construction engineering management background, and instead of building projects for other companies, she built a multi-million-dollar business. And that's why I'm excited to have her on Get Wealthy today. Elizabeth, welcome to Get Wealthy.
Thank you so much for having me, Deborah. It's always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. And let's just start by tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Deborah gave me a wonderful introduction. So I'm Elizabeth Davis. I'm the founder of Shidavi, and we focus on plant-based beauty products, more focusing on the hair. And we focus on giving your hair luster, longevity, and length.
Excellent. Well, let me just say, one of the things I want our viewers to know today is the 3 things that you may not know about having a successful business. Number 1 is that your skill set is your asset. Also, that building a business is how you turn your skill set into wealth. And then finally, you need to know how to use technologies and systems to actually grow your business. And so, Elizabeth, when we met, one of the things I was fascinated about initially was when we were having a conversation and you were like, yeah, I said, so how big is your business? And you said, oh, yeah, I was able to build my business to over 7 figures with no employees. And it's sort of like my mouth just dropped. And so I want to start one of our focus or our framework on Get Wealthy for financial success is mindset, strategy, and execution. And so I want to start there with you. Mm-hmm. And that is, you built this multi-million-dollar plant-based wellness brand, and you had a successful career. Mm-hmm. And so what I want to know is, first is, what was the mindset that you had to have to leave that flourishing career to actually start a business?
Oh, that's a loaded question, even though it sounds... Guys, when you are building your business, I would say now that there's a lot more support for individuals who are building businesses, and a lot more encouragement for people. My mindset shift, I had to shift my mind from that of an employee to that of an entrepreneur and employer. No, I didn't have any particular employees at the time, but I did have contractors that I was working with and that I needed to do things. And really, as far as shifting your mindset, I just felt like everyone around me had an employee mindset at that time, because not just from family members, but even at work, you spend your best hours at work, right? So from 7 a.m. To 9 p.m. sometimes, or even 5 p.m., whatever time you get off work, you're spending your best hours at work. One thing that I had to learn from my research was I need to give my best hours to my business. So that included, instead of me focusing on just getting ready for the morning and getting ready for work, my first few hours of the day, even if you have to get up a little bit earlier, where my mind is clear and the day is not getting away from me, I had to go ahead and dedicate those first few hours, get up at 5 a.m. or sometimes 4 a.m. to get certain things done, because those were my best hours where my brain was clear. And then in the evening, I will focus on my business. So when you're starting a business, and if you want to keep your lifestyle, which was important to me because I had a home, I had bills that I needed to pay, right? So I wanted my lifestyle to be the same. I didn't want to quit my job. I just had to manage my time a little differently. That's one of the main things that you'll have to do.
It's so interesting how you said that employee mindset. And I would imagine you did very well in your educational pursuit and was able to get, have a flourishing career in what I would say is a male-dominated field, construction management. And so you talked about shifting from employee to an employer mindset. And I would imagine, though, that your family, how did they feel about you pursuing, leaving that investment in your college and career to start your own business?
Well, I think through my casual conversations with my family, they knew how much I complained about my job, number one. They knew that was going to be, they just didn't know how or when, right? Because there were days where I'd be like, oh no, I'm just going to quit today. And then my mom will have to talk me back down and say, well, wait a minute, no, quit today. Why don't you? She'll say, okay, hold on. And then I'll get through the day. I'm like, okay, well, no, today wasn't a bad day, right? And that's another thing that brings me to another mindset shift. Understanding your employer too, because when you're shifting your mindset from an employee to an employer mindset to an entrepreneur mindset, you will begin to have a better understanding of your employer and why they did the things they did, why things operate the way they operate. And sometimes I sit back and I think, I'm like, well, I sound like my manager, right? Or I sound like my employer from 5 years ago. Because there are certain things that as an employer that you have a different perspective than you did as an employee of things needing to get done. And then also just thinking about the future of the company. So that's a big thing there.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because the conversation that I wanted to have with you is, I think that, I know that there may be viewers of this program who dream of doing exactly what you have accomplished, and that's leaving that day job with that employer and launching out on their own. And so my other question to you is, in terms of you talked about how you managed your time and that sort of thing. How did you actually validate that you had a business? Like, did you start part-time and kind of testing things, or give our audience just a bird's eye view of what that was like when you were first getting started?
Yeah, sure. And I think this can work for any business, no matter which field that you want to go into. Is number one, is this something that you even desire yourself? Like a lot of companies like, oh, I have to have a focus group and spend all this money. No, you don't. What you need to do is, of course, is this something that you desire yourself? So healthy, beautiful hair was something that I desired myself and something that I had. And yes, I have my hair in a ponytail today, but you guys can see I do have length. But when I first started my company, and before, when I was validating my idea, people on the street, when I would straighten my hair or blow dry out my hair, like just a few weeks ago, I blow dried out my hair. I hadn't even finished my hair. And a lady was like, is that all your hair? Like, so things like that will give you a clue as to what you should be doing. Now, if you have something that's more of a software or even a product or something that you want to start, is just even listening to conversation of, like, when you give suggestions to people or listen to people's problems, what you want to understand is, are you solving a problem that people have? And if you can get that understanding, then also say, you know, is this a problem that people have? Is this something that the world needs, or your particular audience needs? Is the audience size large enough? So that's something you could just do research on the internet to find out statistics and data on, is this an industry that's growing? And then also just talking to friends and family and people that support you and people that are honest with you too, on ideas and things like that. That you have. So that's how I validated my idea. And my focus group was simply a text message. What do you guys think about this name? Right? So I had a group of people, like 10 people, like friends and family, that I'm like, oh, what do you guys think about this name? What do you guys think about this logo? Do you like the black or the white? What do you guys think about these colors? Just things like that to get support from your immediate group, right? Then another thing you can do is just doing your research on the internet, reading books, listening to Audible books on historically things that have been done. Like, for example, a book that I just started listening to last night, excuse me, is called The 10 Habits of Rockefeller. Is some of the things in the book is kind of outdated because it was written in the 2000s, the early 2000s, but some of the things are still relevant now as to how you run in your business when you actually have employees, because that's more on where I am, is where you have employees, what's the next steps? But there's a lot of encouraging books out here that you can listen to. Like there's a book, this is perfect for you guys, and this is one of my favorite books. I listened to it more than once. Think and Grow Rich for Women. They also have one, Think and Grow Rich for Black people, and just the regular Think and Grow Rich. But the best one for me personally was the Think and Grow Rich for Women, especially since I was in a male-dominated industry at that time.
No, that's interesting. I mean, Napoleon Hill is one of my all-time favorite authors, and I really feel like he is the architect, right, and the origin for where self-help, so many self-help people that we know now have gotten most of their information from Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. I didn't know there was a Think and Grow Rich for women, so I'm going to have to check that out.
I love it.
Yeah, so the other question I have for you, though, is how were you able to grow your revenues to 7 figures without having to have employees? I mean, did you have a mentor? Did you just use technology? Share with our audience how you were able to accomplish that.
So guys, initially, things are really busy these days, and they're getting, busier and busier. So for me, I did not have a mentor. In the construction field, I had like a few mentors, but of course, all those people are, again, employees. Now you're looking for a new mentor. Give me 1 second here. Let me clear my throat. Okay, I'm back. So for me, I use experts as my mentor. Now think about that, guys. So using an expert as your mentor. So these books that have been written, these are people who have made millions and billions of dollars. So they're giving you information that is useful to your business, and now you just need to apply it. Even if you're not applying everything, that's going back to the mindset shift of shifting from an employee to an entrepreneur. Using these books that are out here, those are people that can be your mentor without you having to even meet them in person, right? Some of them are deceased because it's years ago. A lot of them are not in your circle. So that's how I shifted my mind and actually gained some mentorship. Then also, for example, if you're not great at something that you need to do, like your graphic design, for example, like you find somebody who's good at what you're not at and use that person as a mentor in that particular field. So like I said, graphic design is a good example where I'm not an expert at graphic design, so I'm hiring somebody with those expertise. And that's how you grow to where you want to.
Oh, that's great. And, I love it that you're really sharing the mindset, right? So it was employee, it was entrepreneur. And so, I shared with the audience that what I was fascinated by was the fact that you were able to grow your business to 7 figures without having employees, certainly using contracts and experts. And so now I want to shift to that CEO mindset, right? And so when we come back, I want to go to strategy, and I want you to share with the audience, you can get to a certain level with a certain level of thinking, but now as you adopted the CEO mindset, what are some of the strategies that you use to continue to grow your business? So don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back. Next, we talk mindset. Next, we're going to talk strategy with Elizabeth Davis, founder of Shadavi.
Let's be honest, as successful women, we're crushing it. Maxed out 401k and Roth IRA? Check. Aggressive savings and investments? Check. Yet, the freedom our success was supposed to buy can leave us stuck on the 6-figure hamster wheel, watching retirement slip further down the road. There's another way. Get coaching courses and community at wealthyu.com.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and we're having a fascinating conversation with Elizabeth Davis. She is CEO of Shadavi, a plant-based beauty brand, and she shares how she really was able to address her own problem, wanting to have healthy hair and having people comment on it, and that grew into her brand. So Elizabeth, thank you so much for sharing your mindset and how coming from that employee mindset, building that, now you shifted to that entrepreneur mindset and now CEO mindset. So now that you have had a certain amount of success, what is the next step that you had to do when you talked about leadership and now bringing employees in?
Yeah, sure. So let's see. For example, there's been so many stages, but when sometimes the work gets to be like, it can't just be you, or it just can't be the contractors that you've worked with, you need more hours to get things done. And that's when you want to start thinking about bringing in employees. And so, for example, for my team, I've hired a product developer, I've hired a marketing manager, and, we're getting those people up and running. And so these are things that you just have to think about as you grow your business. Like, you probably can't always work with contractors. You'll have to go to the next level and start hiring employees.
Because then, I guess the shift really is that you get to a point where you can't do everything, but even if you put to run a very lean business, I'm interested in, as a strategy, what would you say to our audience about how technology has played a role in your being able to grow and be sort of lean in how you're doing it?
Yeah, sure. So one thing that I think people should understand is that your current career, you're using that as a catalyst. And that's another thing with your mindset shift, is that this current job is going to fund my dreams, right? So if your next step in your dream is to be an entrepreneur, then that's what this job is here to do. Yes, it takes up a lot of your time. That's why we talked about the timing. And then we also have to think about, what can you take from your current career and apply to your business? So for example, for me, when you talk about lean business, that's an equivalent to lean construction. When you talk about products and how they play into people's lives, that's the same thing as what we did in architecture and the building construction industry, is that we're taking this building and it has to be functional for people, and not only functional, but beautiful. So that's something that I built into my products. I want them to be functional and beautiful and effective for people. And so I took that from my career and I applied those same concepts to my products. Then also, when we talk about the lean construction, that's another concept. So lean construction is where we're doing basically using the minimum amount of materials and the minimum amount of cost, which in turn, if we're using the minimum amount of materials, the minimum amount of labor, then that minimizes the cost. And so when I'm thinking about my business, I wanted to minimize the cost to launch my business. And so I took those same concepts and applied it to my business.
I'm so glad that you really gave us a very practical way of looking at what I think is the most important and valuable asset that people have, and it is their skills, right? And I think it's really interesting that you're able to say how you were able to look at, as an employee, and all of the skills that you learned and how you applied them in your career and how they are transferable to your business. And it does not necessarily have to be the same industry. It's really the skill itself and how it's applied to create the same kind of outcome that you want, just in a different industry. And so I guess the next question I have for you is, in terms of strategy for you, it was leveraging your existing skill set. But then what kind of infrastructure have you put in your business so that would allow it to grow?
Okay, so one thing that I did when you say infrastructure is, the first few even contractors that I worked with, and then softwares that I worked with, I thought about, and I think that this is for any company, and I just realized this, was that you need to focus on revenue producing activities. For you to be able to leave that job, for you to be able to grow your business to where it can sustain you, at least initially, and in your first few years, you really need to focus on revenue producing activities. So what are the few people, what can you do yourself? Again, so like for me, project management. I'm good at managing costs, especially being in the architecture construction industry. I'm good at managing costs, people, and time. Those are my skill sets. Aside from being able to do hair, those are things that I had already outside of my job, but those things that was in my job was being able to manage costs, people, and time. And so I took those things and I applied it. What can I do myself? Those are the things that I'm going to do. What do I need other people to do immediately for my revenue? And then what in the future am I building out? And so that's the mindset and how you kind of build your infrastructure based on those things.
Well, something interesting, and coming out of sales and being a business owner, nothing happens without a sale. So I do love that you are really telling folks to focus on revenue generating activities. Yeah, you need a brand. Yeah, you need a website and all of that. But at the end of the day, are you getting a return on investment, and are the effort that you're giving every day really resulting in an outcome of growth? So to that end, you're in the manufacturing business. Do you manufacture your own products? And how are you able to take it from that product to the sales and be profitable?
Okay, yeah, sure. So when we're thinking about reducing costs, back to reducing costs, when I first created Shadavi, our flagship products is our healthy hair vitamin, our whole food hair vitamin. It's an all herbal vitamin, and then our hair and scalp growth elixir. So we have these two products. That was another one of my lean strategies. Was I wanted to create something that looked really good, because especially at the time, if people were launching products, they weren't the most professional looking products, but I wanted mine to be as close to professional looking as possible, because I felt like that would sell. The appearance of my product will sell the product. So the branding was important. The website was important, but I found people who could do what I needed them to do at the prices that I could afford at the time. And then also, it's just like anything else in life. It's like some things you splurge on, and some things you are saving on, right? So you have to have that balance. And so I launched my two flagship products, which, like I said, that was reducing the cost by only having two products rather than having so many products. And that's pretty much what I did. Did I answer your question, Deborah?
Yeah, you did. I mean, I think, one of the things I'm intrigued about is the fact that you are in a very competitive field. Not only do you have, competition in terms of individual entrepreneurs, but especially Black hair. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then you have the larger brands, right? Who are the big Unilevers, and, they've got, they see the amount of money that your target audience spends on these types of products. And so I'm really intrigued with how you were able to market. And so how did you market your brand? How did you get people to buy it? Was it word of mouth? Was it Facebook marketing? What would you say to someone who's going to go into a competitive industry about how they can stand out and create sales?
Yeah. So I think initially with your business, what's going to sell is you, because you understand your products. Like when I first launched Shadavi, and you understand the brand and what you created it to be. Or whatever that is, whether you're selling engineering services or medical services or goods, like nobody's going to sell it like you, especially initially. So for me, like I did Facebook ads, but my first Facebook video that I made, it was trash. I did not know how to make videos. That was not, it was terrible. So then what I had to do, I found, I was somewhere online and I found a person who taught you how to use a DSLR camera. And so, yeah, camera phones are better now, but you guys know that 6 years ago, camera phones were not good, right? You can make a video now with your own phone, but that was not the case. So I had to buy one of those cameras, and then I bought the document where she explained step by step, and watched the videos where she explained step by step how to make a video. My next video was golden. So I had that video, and guys, I did not care to be on in any ads or on YouTube or anything like that, but you have to do what you have to do to sell your product initially, especially if you don't have the funds to pay people to make videos and things like that. You can do this yourself initially. And so you put your script together, and I put my video together, and then that's how we really broke out even more sales at that time, because the word was getting out, because social media was word of mouth. Now, I mean, it still is a little bit more competitive, like, for example, on the Facebook Marketplace, or if you have Google ads and things like that. So you probably do have to get someone to help you with those things. But again, decide what you can splurge on and decide what you can save on.
Well, I do think that it's important for folks to know, if you're going to start a business, you look at someone having your sort of success and you wonder, wow, can I make that? Can I do that? Can I make that investment? I'm sitting in this office right now and I'm thinking about how I can transfer my skills to really create a business that I love and I dream, and I'm not waking up every morning, as you said, say, is this the last day? Am I going to put in my notice today? So I was really tickled by that, because boy, did that bring back memories. But I think the other point that you're making is like, you were the face of the product. And one of the other points that I wanted to make, or acknowledgments I wanted to make, is that you actually got featured in Oprah's magazine, and your product, the Elixir, was voted #1. And so I'm fascinated with how they found you, and also, did that really have an impact on your business?
Yeah, sure. So we were featured in Oprah magazine online, and I did not know the writer beforehand or anything like that, but she just found us on Amazon. Our products were listed on Amazon, and that's how she found us. And the vitamin was actually voted #1. The Elixir was like #5 or 6, maybe 7 on the list of oils. And so just by, again, like when you have your social media, if you're on Amazon, and just being different places online to be seen, is how sometimes you get included in lists and things like that you didn't have anything to do with. Now, that was one of my manifestations was, I want to be in Oprah magazine. And so we were online in the Oprah, in an Oprah article, which was great. So things happen when you dream about them and you manifest and you do different things. You don't even know it's coming, and it'll happen.
And so what would you say, though, to someone who gets that kind of media, and how you leverage that? So did you use that as a way, once you got that kind of exposure, to leverage it in other places to really kind of validate that, hey, we're in Oprah magazine?
Yeah. So, like, for example, when you're in different places, you can have a press page on your website. You can send it out through your email list, or just share it on your social media, share it on your website, like we have it on our website, just to share this validation that people, other reputable companies are looking at your brand and believe in your brand. So that's just another form of validation.
Yes, and it's social proof, if you will. So finally now, Elizabeth, when we come back, I really want to talk about execution and what you have done now to really, now that you've had your foundation, you started hiring employees, what have you done to now what do you have to do in order to accelerate your financial growth, particularly in this environment of, you know, coming out of the pandemic? Well, I don't know if we're out of it yet, but
Right.
all of this inflation that you're experiencing with products. So when we come back, we're going to talk to Elizabeth Davis, founder and CEO of Shadavi, about how she is faring and how she has to execute in what is a pretty volatile time as it relates to the economy.
These are the only bins that will accommodate larger overboard.
They put 10 in here?
10, and you don't come out till you die. And you eat him, you eat 10.
Oh my God.
Welcome you to the launch of the Mass Poor People's Low Wage Assembly and Moral March on Washington, D.C., June 18, 2022.
We are a new, unsettling force, and we are powerful. New, unsettling force, and we are here.
We're rising up to demonstrate the compelling power that we, poor and low-income people, have to reconstruct society from the bottom up.
And we need to do it with the loudest voices possible, the biggest actions possible.
Because we know that there is no scarcity in this land. The only scarcity is the moral will to do what's right.
Hold on, just a little while longer.
We are those with sub-minimum wage jobs who can't afford sky-high rent.
People with disabilities are the fastest growing minority group.
It's crazy to me that in 2021, it's still legal for workplaces to pay a sub-minimum wage to people with disabilities.
There are still so much trial and tribulations that we go through as Indigenous people. We can't get a decent wage to sustain ourselves, nor can we get adequate housing.
Veterans across this nation say enough is enough. We can't pat essential workers on the back on one day and then cut their health care the next day.
Health is a political choice.
What more do I need to do to prove that my voice is just as valuable as anyone else's?
There are still forces in denial that would try to slow walk our transition to a clean economy and a just future for us all.
We have an immoral system run by immoral people.
But together we walk and we fight.
It's time for a change!
Reconstruyamos esta gran nación!
See, we are people of resilience. As we fight these interlocking injustices together.
When we work together, mobilize together, and rise together, we become a voice for the voiceless and we become an agent of change in a time where great change is needed.
We need the third reconstruction to ensure that deaf people, people with disabilities, and all people can have the right to live and to thrive.
We know what they are doing, but the question is, what are we going to do? Reconstruction begins when we change our mentality and say it's time for you to get your foot off of my neck.
I'm Deborah Owens. I hope you are enjoying this conversation on Get Wealthy with Elizabeth Davis, CEO of Shidavi, a plant-based beauty brand who is really accelerating her financial growth. But like so many entrepreneurs, CEOs are now having to navigate their way in what is a pretty tumultuous time economically. And so, Elizabeth, we've talked mindset, and I just really want to just say how grateful I am for you explaining what it means to go from an employee to an employer, and that mindset that you have to have. And you know, the fact that you've really helped our folks to understand that they have skills already that they can use. They just have to surround themselves, make sure that they're getting other people. They stay in their lane, do what they do best, and then get other people to take over in areas that are needed. And now I want to talk about execution and just looking forward. You've been through the pandemic. How did that impact your business?
Well, for me, the pandemic wasn't bad because it was actually good because we had more sales than expected because so many people were at home and everyone was working on their regimens at home, their regimens and their routines at home. So it was actually good for business. And the thing is that, like, for us, since I built my company, I've been working from home or working from wherever I was anyway. And so were the people that I worked with because I had a full-time job. So that's how I had to do things. And I'm not saying that's how you guys have to do things now. If you want an office or if you have a certain type of services where people have to come to you in person, that's a different type of business, and you should do whatever it takes for that particular business. But for me at the time, it was not a big adjustment at all.
I'm so glad you said that, because on Get Wealthy, we call that the wealth mindset, and that's turning problems into opportunities. And that's exactly what you've been able to do. So the fact that more people were at home and literally had to do their own hair was a benefit to you.
Mm-hmm, it was.
To your company.
It was, yes.
And so what did you do in response to that? Did you start doing videos? Did you do more of teaching people how, once you found out that you had this audience that was now at home and more likely to be doing their hair themselves?
Yes, we were actually more engaged, live engagement online at the time, doing a lot more lives, doing a lot more, even we have lives on our website and things like that so that people can feel engaged in the brand.
And do you know, it's interesting that you said that, because we, in Wealthy You, we've had a lot of growth as a result of the pandemic, just in terms of people wanting to get together virtually. Mm-hmm. And you know, wanting that audience, wanting that interaction, because you couldn't have it, you know, in person, that this was one of the ways that you would have it online. And now you're having this online. So this is a great segue into another aspect of our show, and that's analyze, optimize, and maximize. And as you think about maybe someone watching this show and they're in business right now, and maybe they've hit a lull, and maybe they need to think about things a little differently, I'm interested in how you look at your business, especially because of your background and understanding how to manage cost and optimize different things. Talk to us about how you look at your business right now and some of the things that you may be considering taking advantage of in this current environment.
Oh, I love that you brought up the word optimize and maximize, because really those are my words of the year for 2022.
All right.
Yes, because like when you've had a business for a certain amount of time, like we're over 5 years now, we're going into our 6th year. And so after a certain amount of time and with technology, things do become a little stale, or you have to keep updating things. So one thing that I'm doing is like the programs that we have now and the team is working on optimizing what we have. We're getting rid of things that are no longer serving the business. So any platforms, any additional costs, that's how you stay lean too. Every once in a while, you have to look at that and say, okay, we're going to turn this off. We're going to add this. And that way, so you can stay up to date too with your technology. And with what you're doing in the business. And so we're optimizing a lot of things now. So that's our goal. We're in the analysis phase of some, and we're in the optimization phases of others. And then once we are able to do that, then we'll turn them up and maximize it, right?
And so when you, it's so interesting. That's exactly what I was thinking this morning. You know how you kind of have service creep now, where you've added this, this thing to do this calendar to do this thing to, help maximize something, and you forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe you're using one service for one thing and another service for something else, and you don't think about that creep. And so lastly, I would say, because you're such an expert at controlling costs, what would you say to business owners about maybe a habit that they can adopt to really make, cost and managing and being efficient a priority in their business overall?
So one thing that I was actually reminded of yesterday, and this is something that I definitely did in the beginning of my business for the first few years, and I'm getting back to doing now, is looking at every day. I was looking at my numbers rather than looking at them weekly or monthly. When you're first starting your business, my recommendation is look at your numbers every day, because are they balancing out each day? If they're not balancing out for 3 days in a row, that means your week is going to be off.
So when you say, and I love that, because it is really easy to look at top line, right? Like, here are my sales that are coming in. But I think what you're saying, well, are you saying that don't look at the top line every day, look at what's coming in and what's going out, and making sure that you're in the black, right, instead of the red? Is that what you mean by looking at your numbers?
So what I mean is, you're looking at your top line. Okay, I brought in X, Y, and Z today, and I spent X, Y, and Z today. What's the difference?
Yes.
So
and that's exactly
the difference. So that's exactly what I'm saying. And that'll let you know how you're tracking.
Oh, this is a great way to end this show, Elizabeth Davis, because as someone who loves numbers, I often say you cannot manage what you do not measure. So Elizabeth Davis, CEO of Shadavi. Thank you so much for sharing how you shifted from an entrepreneur, from an employee to an entrepreneur, and now CEO. Thank you so much for investing in our audience today.
Thank you so much for having me, Deb. It's always a pleasure, and you ask all the right questions. So I hope that the audience got what they needed from this. And if you guys are interested in learning more about Shadavi, you can go to www.shadavi.com. That's spelled SHEDAVI.com.
Absolutely. We would be remiss if we didn't mention all of the fabulous products that you have that really, unlike so many brands, you focus on health, and and your products focus not only on the outside beauty, but on the inside. I've done my homework.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth Davis. And when we come back, I'm going to share with you the 3 takeaways from today's show. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed today's show on Get Wealthy and our conversation about how to shift from that employee mindset to that CEO mindset. And if you have entrepreneurship in your future or you're considering it, here are the 3 takeaways from today's show. First is plan your exit strategy. Don't quit your day job. Like the advice that Elizabeth Davis gave you, is while you're on the job, begin to develop those habits that are going to help you become a good CEO. Next, validate your product and ideas. She shared many, many ways that you can do that without it costing you anything. Ask your family and friends. Listen to what other people are saying. But most importantly, and that's exactly where we ended today, analyze the data. Make sure that you understand not only if you're making sales, but if you're making a profit. Thanks so much for joining us on Get Wealthy. And don't forget to watch our other episodes. They're always available on demand right here on Black Star Network.